Okay, I'm back. My phone ran out of batteries, or not batteries, out of room, and then now this is my computer. That's the long story short. I'm using a different device. So here we go. I was talking about Jesus. So they would draw this fish in the sand to see if you were a Christian because it was dangerous to be a Christian at that time. You could be killed. You could be up on that cross because you were a follower of Christ. Now, there's a huge difference is that these individuals, so St. Paul and Peter and these people went out into the community saying Jesus is the Son of God, not the emperor, and that the gospel or the good news isn't that we have taken over people by force and by war, but the good news is this gospel of love and inclusion and healing and resurrection. This gospel of power of going to the outcasts, of searching out those who are in need, and not, so it was nothing to do with power over. Jesus invited us into this God of power with, and it was and it is very beautiful. But what ends up happening is, so at first it's all they have to hide, and it's illegal to be a Christian, and so they do these underground churches or they meet in homes to do the Eucharist and these rituals and things like that of these followers of Christ, of Jesus. And what ends up happening is later on, just after Constantine, and this is the Roman Empire, 300 some years after Jesus. So then what ends up happening is Constantine becomes a Christian on his deathbed, and Emperor Theodosius, after him, sees what that can do. So he decides to make all of the Roman Empire have to be Christians. And what ends up happening then is it moves from this power with and these trying to be a part of trying to include people and love people and go to the sick and all, and it becomes a unified place to overtake people where you have to be a Christian. So it moved from power with and this beautiful truth and unfolding to, ironically, power over. It moved to become something where there was the Crusades, and there was murder over who had the Holy Lamb, the Christians or the Muslims, and there was murder and there was stealing and there was raping. And it was just insane, all in the name of Jesus. And it makes no sense. It's so sad to be able to look back at it now, how we can become so obsessed with power over and being right that it can result in really brutal actions where we have us and versus them, instead of what Jesus actually taught was all of us together in this love, in this unfolding, in this incarnate and holy and beautiful world, all of it together as one. And so you see how for me, it just wrecks my brain how the Jesus message ended up in many ways being something to do with right thinking and being right, as opposed to this way of life that included and loved and invited power with instead of power over. So you'll read in your questions a little bit about how Rome fell and what all happened within that. But that's a little recap of what happened within the Roman Empire, like a teeny, tinsiest little recap of this empire that has so much more to do with it. But those are the points that I wanted to touch on. And since a major arc in our class has been about worldview and paradigm, I wanted to bring that in. That this Jesus paradigm, this Jesus worldview, even today is still something that people haven't discovered in many ways, of this love and this goodness and this beauty, and moving away from power over and moving away from Colosseum, the idea of of that, and moving towards this inclusive love and grace and the power with that is in that. So there you have it. There's your little blurb. You get part 1 and part 2 and then that other one, and so there, yeah. Okay, bye. I think.